So after this, we can finally start implementing the actual methods to talk with the SDK. And let's copy this initialize one. So here, this would gonna be the second public method of this class. Everything else is gonna be private. So for now, only the start process and the initialize methods are going to be called from the outside. If you're not sending an ID, then a field, then it's not going to be present instead. And these fields you will obviously replace by your credentials that you got in the partner portal. Right now I'm connecting not to the production environment, so I would get the corresponding ID and secrets to put here. And we can go ahead. So this also explains what the ePOS inside is and an example of a response here. And in this case, we can go ahead and also copy the setup method. So the requesting of the setup is actually easier. So because there's no parameters, but the response is more important, and you need to pay attention to that. So there are 3 types of possible responses you will get. Either you'll get a success, in which case you also get a store and a terminal that the merchant connected to, with all the details about those. You might also get a cancel, in which case there's nothing else, only the cancel. And this means that the user canceled the login flow. So this setup method will make the SDK show some UI. And if the user cancels that UI, then this is the response you'll get. For more unexpected errors that might happen, then you will get something like this. In which case you can try to retry, and if it keeps failing, you should probably reach the TAE support. So when calling this method, it's important that you check the result type and see if it actually went through successfully. And depending on your needs, you can also take the ID and the details about the terminal and the store. So let's actually hook it up into the UI so that we can start making the calls. So one thing here would be to actually go here in our program, and I'm just going to remove this. And here I can do something like the SDK equals the SDK manager. So it's going to be a new, and then because some of the methods are async, I will run this like this. Some of the methods might throw an exception, so I'm also going to do some try catching here. So exception, and then do that. And inside I'm going to call the start process and the initialize methods. So I forgot about this async here. There you go. For now, I'm just going to write a message here in case the initializing fails. So what we're doing here is, of course, instantiating the SDK manager and then starting its process and initializing. Usually these 2 functions will come hand in hand. So when you start, you want to also initialize it. And you can do this at a later point, or maybe when the user clicks on a button to set up TAE or something like that. But for the purposes of this sample, we can do it just as the process is starting. And in my case, I'll actually send this instance to the UI. Of course, in your code, you can use any type of dependency injection or any way to access this SDK. Now that I have access to this SDK instance here on the UI, I can call the setup method when the user clicks on the configuration button. So here is where I would do that. One thing I'll do first is to avoid the double clicks, because I'm about to do something asynchronous by calling this asynchronous function that sets up the SDK. While that's happening, we don't want the user to click on the button again. And yeah, I'll make this function as. So this is what I want to do when the setup succeeds. So let's actually call the setup method. and check if it succeeds or not, which is done like this. So again, the SDK, calling setup, getting the response, which is going to be a JSON element. And then I will try to get the response field from it and checking if it's different than success. If it is different, then it was either cancelled or there was some unexpected error. For now, I'm just going to show a message box. Otherwise, if it was successful, then I will show once again a message box saying that it is ready, and I will update, make sure the buttons state up now that the SDK is configured. It is good here on the UI to catch the exceptions that might happen when calling setup. So I'm also going to do that. Put this inside of it to the try part. So something like this. If there's an error, I'm just also going to show a message box. And then it's also helpful to re-enable the buttons in case there was an exception. So here I'm re-enabling the button and going back to the original message instead of configuring. So with this, we should now be able to see the setup in action. So now we can start the application, the POS application, and when I click on this configure SDK, we will call the setup that we've done. So I can do that. The first time the setup gets called, we will show this UI to help the merchants log in and select the terminal that they want to link to. The other times it will just return success right away. So let's do that. So on a real use case, the merchants probably would scan this QR code and finish it on their smartphones, for example. But here, in order for me to show it, I'll actually go through on the browser here and just put in the code. So, right, usually I would have to log in, but I was already logged in. So I can confirm. My account only has 1 star. Otherwise, I could see here multiple stars. This star has multiple terminals. So I would select the one I want to connect to. Hit next. Like one final screen that tells the merchant that they should turn on this feature on their terminal. And that's it. The SDK is ready. On the next video, I'll show you how to implement the make payment methods.